So there's a lot of stuck energy in the field of an entrepreneur, even before they set out to become visible, that could block them from doing the work to become visible.
Welcome to Courage to be Visible, the podcast for heart-centered entrepreneurs who are done hiding in the shadows and ready to step into the spotlight. I'm your host, Andrea Stenberg. I'm a video marketing strategist and a big believer that showing up as your true self is your marketing superpower. Welcome. On today's episode, I have Devora Gila Berkowitz, and she helps soulful women in business move from overwhelm to calm, clarity, and spiritual connection to create a life of ease and flow, which I think is something we all want. Devora, thank you so much for joining me.
Good to be here, Andrea.
So I always ask people, why do you think it's so challenging for entrepreneurs, and I think particularly women entrepreneurs, to be visible and tell the world what they do and why they're great at it?
So, Andrea, visibility really starts at the very beginning. And for most entrepreneurs, they may not have come into families who are entrepreneurs. We're dreamers, we're visionaries. We have big things happening in us. Even as children, we know we're different from other people. And unless you had a really supportive family environment who could see you and hear you and help you develop those dreams, most of us didn't. Most of us didn't feel seen and heard as children. And I'm starting off like this because this is the core of the way that I help people. It's all about learning how to see yourself from your adult's eyes and see into your inner child's eyes, because that energy is still there. That energy of our childhood is there. The energy of our parents' childhoods are there. So there's a lot of stuck energy in the field of an entrepreneur, even before they set out to become visible, that could block them from doing the work to become visible. So, so that's the work. The work is to see your inner child and
I,
feel seen
I
before you
love
step out onto platforms.
I love that. And, like for me, when I started my business, I was kind of all about like the tactics and the strategy. But I've been in business long enough to realize that it's really the mental game. And I've been starting to realize that, yeah, it does go back to your childhood. Because when you're young, you think you can do everything. And then the world tells you, no, don't do that. Don't be so loud. Don't be so whatever. And you tamp it down, and then it's a challenge. So I love this conversation. So if somebody's listening to this and they're struggling with their visibility, how do they know that they need to start working on the inner game?
Well, to look at yourself and see, am I doing the things that I want to do, that I want to accomplish? Are those things um, things that make me happy? Do I feel really joyful? Do I feel like myself when I'm pursuing those things? That's the first level of awareness that you would need. Are you aligned with your vision for your life? And a lot of us get stuck in dreams that other people have for us. Let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, but one of your parents says, well, you won't be happy, or something like that. I've known stories like that. And maybe you are following someone else's dream. Actually, before this talk, I meditated a little bit and I scanned your audience for what they needed to hear from me. And in the intuitive work that I do, I get messages from divine source. And you want to know what the message was for your audience?
Sure.
So it was that God loves you. So whether you call that God or infinite intelligence or whatever, I want people to know that there is so much love for you here, and that you are a mouthpiece for something so much greater than yourself. And if that doesn't give you confidence, then I'm telling you, there is a message here that you are loved and that the divine wants to express the divine self through you. And so just, take that, put that in your back pocket at the beginning of your day and see what amazing, dreams you can fulfill.
I love that message because I think you're right. Like a lot of people are living somebody else's dream because it was safer, because it was smarter, because that's what their family did. And then when you break out of it, there's a lot of doubt. So having somebody, having you tell people, the universe, God, whoever loves you and wants you to be happy and joyous, that is a really powerful message.
It is powerful, and we get stuck in overwhelm for so many reasons. And, entrepreneurs, we often get stuck in this pitfall that I call the three O's, which is overdrive, overgiving, and overwhelm, because we have such a big vision and we want to push ourselves hard, and we might not have been seen as children. So there's this kind of like go, 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 because, well, I'm not enough, so I might as well work really hard to prove myself. So that's the overdrive. And then there's the kind of I'm not worthy or deserving, which can happen if you were like many of us latchkey children. You came home every day with a key around your neck like a cat, and you made yourself, maybe even a TV dinner, right? And there's a very deep sense of like not deserving of attention. And that can lead to a sense of overcompensation, which I call overgiving. And so that might be um, backed by feelings and thoughts like I have to please everybody, I have to bend over backwards for other people, I have to put myself last on the totem pole. And those kinds of belief systems that are flowing over and over nonstop in our minds, right? There's like 80,000 thoughts per day that we think they found in science. Then that can cause a lot of overwhelm. And so it's really important to be aware, what are my thoughts? What are my beliefs? What emotions are coming up when I'm thinking these things and feeling these things? And I think especially entrepreneurs are prone to a lot of overthinking.
Yeah. Okay, you have a lot of stuff there that I'd like want to unpack. So the first thing I want to talk about is the overgiving because I I know I do that myself and I a lot of the entrepreneurs that I see and talk to do the same and it comes out in a lot of different ways like, you know, selling a $27 product and then giving all your energy as if people are paying you $2,700 and or
Right.
feeling like why would anybody pay me what I'm worth because I'm not, that sort of thing. I, that's part of this overgiving. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, what it would be ideal to do is to clear the energy around that energetically, because we are tied in like a spider web to all the people that have influenced us in our lives. And especially if you have that matriarchal lineage that goes back where your mother did that and her mother did that and so on and so forth, then you want to clear that energy. If we take that just till to today, for example, again, step number one is awareness and to work with your inner child and go in and say, hey, how are you today? Find out what is triggering your inner child. Where does that take you back to? And journal about that. And you can sometimes see the roots in your life of where that overgiving came from. Like, for example, maybe your parent was the kind that kind of trained you or groomed you to take care of them, either emotionally or with their physical needs. And it would be good to like be able to identify that, and that could also lead to the pattern of overgiving. And again, the mindset is, "I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy." So it's really important to get really clear on what are you identifying with?
Okay, so I like that idea that because journaling is something that somebody can do on their own. They could go and journal
Mhm.
and think about those things. But oftentimes when you're stuck on something, you need outside help to even notice what the problem is. And so how do you help people if somebody comes to you and it's like, okay, I'm over giving. I heard this podcast. I'm over giving. I've done some journaling, but I'm still over giving. How does working with you help that?
Yeah, so a lot of people, they go to therapy, right? And so that's a long conversation, and that can go over many, many years, and it may or may not resolve things. So in working with me, it starts with a conversation, but the conversation leads to a lot of information. And that information can lead to the stuck energy that is in the system, those energy blocks, the generations of energy blocks. It can include ancestral trauma. Some of my clients, their families went through war or they went through the Holocaust, and there's energy there that needs to be cleared because energy is energy, and you can't destroy it, but you can transform it. And so that is part of the work that I do. We also identify those times in your life that are related to what's happening now. There's often these parallels, like we spoke to about before, a latchkey child coming home alone, well, maybe I'm not really deserving of having attention, and how that is feeding into your business now. So we have that visit with the inner child. We have that understanding, that deep listening. It's a meditative process. It's a really beautiful, kind of relaxing session where energy gets cleared, where there's that deep, deep connection with the different parts of yourself. Sometimes there is clarity work that needs to be done where we bring in your future selves that have already accomplished what you're out to accomplish, because again, everything is connected, everything is energy. And there are many different tools in my toolkit that come up that are mind body mindset tools, clearing tools. But that's the general idea. Is it's like going to like a spa for your soul and connecting with the deep parts of you, connecting with your divine source, whatever you call that, and rejuvenating all the different parts of you.
So that's a kind of an interesting perspective and something that I think I sort of knew, but I didn't fully. So it's the idea things that happened in your childhood are impacting you now, things now are impacting you now, and then things in your family history can be impacting you now, and they all kind of work together to
Exactly.
hold you back. And so I think because I think for a lot of people, they feel like I should be able to fix this myself and there's something wrong with me that I can't. But if there's all this stuff woven together, it's not surprising that people need some assistance to get past some of these things because it's not a simple fix. It's there's lots going on and it's not surprising if we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, there's many different pieces of the puzzle going on. We're here for a long time. We're here for a journey, hopefully, and it's a continuation of our soul's journey. There's lots of work to be done, and there's different time periods. Some time periods you need to go and do that inner work. When that leads you to, well, I need to do more, then you try, a different modality or you try a new modality. And most of the people who I've worked with have tried different modalities, and there comes to a point where, hey, I need to get rid of stuff that I'm carrying around for decades that I can't get it. I can't reach there. And that was me also before I discovered energy healing. There is a point which, you've worked on your mindset, you've worked on your emotional landscape, and you've done your action plan, and then you might hit a brick wall or a glass ceiling, and that's when you might want to reach out for energy work.
So what kind of transformations do you see when somebody comes to you and they've done the other work and now they need some energy work? What happens? What does that look like? Do you have any examples or stories of how that transforms?
Well, an amazing, miraculous one comes to mind, which shows you the power of having extreme self-awareness and then getting that extra help. So there was a holistic healing coach, an author of a book came to me with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. She had had it for about 4 or 5 years, and the doctors didn't know what to do. So we began that discussion and we explored what was going on for her. And a lot of instances of trauma came up. And there was the traumatic childhood and the traumatic family history and the traumatic ex spouses and so on and so forth. And in the course of the session, the energy healing was being sent and she was with her inner child. If you could imagine her belly, which had been expanded like a balloon, it started to deflate and the belly went back into its place. And then I would check up on her, weeks after, months after, years after, and the IBS is gone. She never came back with any of those symptoms. So that was one of the more miraculous stories of things that happened. And I love it when people come to me who already have experience in the holistic healing field. because either they are healers or they've worked with healing. Um, Another example is someone who is, health coach, but needing to take her next step. And oftentimes, what I find is different issues are interconnected. And again, we're all energy, we're holistic beings. So she had physical issues and relationship issues. I'm saying issues, but these are things we all want to work on, right? We all want to get to our next level. I mean, hopefully, most of us, especially entrepreneurs, emotional things and things in her business. And just over the course of working together, all those things, all those pieces were, starting to fit into place. And then we completed, and then she went on to her next modality. So it's a part of the puzzle when you work with different people. It's the question is, what is the best fit for you now? What are you ready to do now? And what is it that you want to where do you want to get to now? And what feels like the best fit for you?
So in your bio, you talk about creating a life of ease and flow. And so is that part of like doing this energy work? Is that how you get to the ease and flow, is by clearing up some of these blockages?
I would say absolutely, because that was my personal experience, and that's what I find in my clients too. Sometimes I'll take a before photo and an after photo, and I'll compare them. Not sometimes, once I did that, and it was a good idea. And you can see the energy changing from the person's face. When energy lifts out of your body, there's something magical. I don't have any scientific evidence or proof. I'm sure it's out there, but I just see it in front of me. How do you feel? What's going on for you? Is a question I ask. And it's always like, I feel lighter. I feel like a burden's been lifted off of my shoulders. For me in my own life, I used to be extremely stressed out. Anybody who knows me, I was always in overwhelm. I had chronic anxiety. I would cry at the drop of a hat. I was always getting frustrated, blaming myself. The list goes on and on, chronic perfectionist. And over the course of time, doing this work for myself. I also work with people, so I'm always taking every healer needs a healer, every coach needs a coach. And doing this work for other people where the energy is running through me, so much of my system has cleared, and I'm a totally different person. Absolutely, totally different person now, and I've grown every year. I grow more and more into my brand, which is Ease and Flow Soul, and I become more and more easeful and flowful and soulful, which is great because I really believe that we as entrepreneurs should walk our talk, and we need to, hold that space for our clients. We need to show up the way that we envision for them as well.
I love that what you said about like people actually looking different for, and because I think even people who aren't healers and dealing with energy work, we've witnessed that in other people. Like, I come to mind a friend of mine who was working in kind of a toxic workplace, and then when she got a new job, all of a sudden, like, she looked lighter and happier. Or even just sometimes when somebody starts telling a story about a hobby or something they love, and they can go from being really serious to all of a sudden they just light up when they're talking about that. And that's just surface level things. So I can imagine when
Mm.
you kind of dig down deep and release some of those, of course people are going to feel lighter because that's gone. So that's such a lovely thing to aspire to, and to know just because you're stuck or struggling doesn't mean that's the end point.
Oh, absolutely. We are in a giant personal growth path, right, as entrepreneurs. And everything is energy. Thoughts are energy, emotions are energy in motion, right? And if you want to get spiritual about it, then you would say that not only is everything energy, but the more dense something is, the physical object is actually just denser energy, and that's where you get those energy blocks, and that's where by clearing them you feel lighter. So
And then also, I mean, I would assume, like, so as you're growing as a person, as you're growing as a business, you might reach a block, a level where you're stuck. you release the block, and then maybe a few years later you're at a new level and you have different blocks. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. There's a saying in the Jewish tradition, which is that God doesn't give you anything greater than you can handle. And I think that when you grow into um, overcoming different obstacles, then God gives you the next thing that's not too great for you to handle. And life is just a series of those challenges to get through in order that we may improve our character, refine ourselves, learn life lessons. And, we can't ever expect there to be no challenges. But I think the key here is, how do you respond to those challenges? And the more work that you do on yourself, the more that you can clear, the better you're going to end up responding to those challenges from a place of ease and flow, we could say.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because, maybe in the early days, a challenge seems overwhelming, but as like you said, as you grow, as you clear things, the challenges aren't as scary because okay, I've done it before, I can do it again.
Exactly, and I used to feel very alone and isolated, and, it's kind of the way that I grew up, and the years went on, and I continued to feel that way before I discovered this energy work. And, um, just there's a way of growing yourself up, you know? There's a time when you need to become your own parent, back to that inner child thing. And, the more that you can get your inner child online with your inner parent, just the easier things are going to be for you. You're not going to feel like that, helpless, kind of powerless little being, and which, you could be in a body that's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and older, and still feel that way. So it's really important to stay on the personal growth journey, and with awareness, and get reach out for help when you need it.
I love that. So yeah, and it is a journey. It's not a destination. We have to keep growing, keep building. Um, this has been a lovely conversation. I feel like we could go on forever. If somebody's
Mm.
listening to this, they think, "Oh, I really need to know more about this." Devora, how can people find out more from you?
I would love you to contact me on my website, easeandflowsoul.com. And there is a free download there where I go a little bit into this mindset idea. So it's called From Overwhelm to Ease and Flow. And it's an assessment about your mindset. Like, where are you with I'm not enough? Where are you with I'm not worthy or deserving? And to see how that it might be affecting you in your business. And you can score yourself, and you can get some tips on, where should your perspective be, or what kind of insights can you get from this assessment. So that's there on my website.
All right, and I will have the link to that in the show notes. So once again, Devora, thank you so much for sharing this conversation. I think it was so important, and I hope people reach out to you because I really believe it. The inner game is the thing that's going to move the needle so that you can become more visible. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Courage to be Visible. I hope today's conversation sparked ideas for your own visibility. If it helped, please share this episode with a friend. Follow the show and leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps. For links, show notes, and free resources to grow your visibility, head over to the show notes or visit my website. See you next time.